Good morning. This is our 22nd session of Ilchot Shabbat. Today we're going to talk about playing ball, exercising, jogging, etc. on Shabbat. We're looking at shulhan-arukh or Haim, chapter 301. Officially, this chapter discusses the garments and utensils which one is allowed to carry on Shabbat even where there is an eruv. But the first several halachot which open this chapter speak about running and walking in a certain manner. Now, if you are ever scolded by someone who tells you that you enjoy jogging and running, whatever, and this is not a Shabbat activity, either they say it's not Shabbos day, it's not the spirit of Shabbat, it's forbidden, shulhan-arukh says you cannot run, etc., etc., remember to quote this. Say, look at shulhan-arukh, chapter 301, halakha 2. Because in halakha 2, after saying in halakha that one cannot run on Shabbat, in halakha 2, the shulhan-arukh says, young men who enjoy jogging and running, jumping on Shabbat are allowed to do so. Now, if that person who argues with you would say, but that only for young men, you're an older person, you're not a young man, you're a woman, whatever they'll come up with, the answer would be, let's look at the seed in life. Don't take things literally, the way the Mishnah says, Lo dibru hachamim ela behove. The rabbis speak about their reality. This is actually something that is taken from an earlier source from the Tosefta. Why do they mention men only, young men only? Because all other people did not want to run on Shabbat. Nobody wanted that. You worked physically very hard the whole week. People spent, just 100 years ago, women would spend most of their day just preparing the basic needs of the house. Men would work in the fields, would work harsh physical work. All you wanted to do on Shabbat is rest. I remember when I was in the basic training, when I had Shabbat off, go home, I would only pull myself out of bed to go to shul and do the sodot. I couldn't talk to anyone, I couldn't do anything, just sleep because of the fatigue of the physical exercises the whole week. So 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, to speak about running or jumping on Shabbat would seem completely ridiculous. Today, everything has flipped around. We sit all day, we work in confined spaces. The only time where we could breathe a little bit and go out, walk, run, jog, whatever, is on Shabbat. Some people enjoy it more than others. They're allowed to do it. There is no problem with that. The shulhan-arukh concludes this halakha by saying, "V'chen lirot kol davar shemit'anegim bo." They're allowed to see everything that causes them joy, and that fits beautifully the idea of onik Shabbat, the spirit of Shabbat. If you enjoy what you're seeing, you're allowed to go there and see it. When I was growing up in Yerushalayim, my grandfather made sure that we had a subscription. We become members of the Muzeon Israel, of the local zoo, which was in walking distance. And once in a while we would walk to the zoo or to the museum on Shabbat. It was wonderful. At the zoo at the time, actually, there were a lot of Haredi families that would also come and visit. Not anymore. The norms have changed. Everything is now being controlled by central rabbinic authorities that say that this is not in the spirit of Shabbat. But that was definitely in the spirit of Shabbat, and the shulhan-arukh says that. We'll add one more thing here, and that is that the commentators say that the idea of running on Shabbat, running, jogging, etc., has to be for joy and not for medical purposes. If it's clearly for medical purposes, this is forbidden. Now, have in mind that even when someone is doing an action which is directly medical, and we're talking not about for someone who is in danger, just regular maintenance or preventive medicine, etc. But even when it is direct, like taking pills, etc., the only reason that the halakha is against it is because of the decree of shohek samemanim. We're afraid that if you allow a person to take any kind of a medical action, he'll end up grinding the ingredients to make medicine. This decree does not apply today, for the very simple reason that nobody prepares his or her own medicine. And don't be afraid of this argument where people tell you, oh, but you have this the pill crusher. This is like grinding pills or grinding ingredients. This is not grinding ingredients because you're not changing the composition in a way that allows you to make medicine. You just make it more easily digestible. The prohibition was because of a decree that wanted to prevent people from making new medicines on Shabbat, and we don't do it today. So when the potential of doing it doesn't exist at all, the Gezerah doesn't apply as well. So if you need to take medicine on Shabbat, be it Tylenol, Advil, your regular antibiotics, you should not put yourself in any situation of discomfort because of that. Now, take this and apply it to running or jogging on Shabbat. Preventive medicine would not lead someone to be shohek samemanim. Even by the original decree, this would not be a problem. The confusion that is created for some people is because the Tosefta mentioned, and it is quoted in later sources, that one is not allowed to lehit'amel b'Shabbat. Now, lehit'amel in modern Hebrew means to exercise, so there you go. However, if you look at the etymology of the word hit'amlut, as we use it today, you will see that it was introduced as such by Eliezer ben Yehuda in the late 19th century, early 20th century. Before 1913, the word hit'amlut was never used as exercise, but rather as toiling the body in order to sweat for medical purposes, to bring down one's fever or to help with digestion. Hit'amlut in the sense of exercising, jogging as we have today, didn't exist. So there would be no problem with that at all. Now, regarding the Davar Shemit'an Gimbo, the commentators say, the Mishnah Berurah actually brings that only Davar Shemutar, the only something that is allowed to be seen on Shabbat, that is obvious. You're not going to engage in any Hilul Shabbat. However, the Mishnah Berurah, because of the environment that he lived at, then it says Batei Tarteot Asur Gam B'Shabbat. People would go to the theater, to the opera. It says this is not allowed. So, in this case, to each his own. You have to feel what is the spirit of Shabbat. I would say that this is true. Even if you purchased tickets from before Shabbat to go to a concert or to a movie or something like that, in most cases it will be inappropriate to do so on Shabbat. But it depends who is the person who's asking what would be the other activities they would do on Shabbat, whether this is an opportunity of a lifetime, etc. To each his own. Have in mind all these factors. Now, the other type of sort of exercising or jogging that becomes problematic for many people is playing ball on Shabbat. So ball, in general, is referred to only once in shulhan-arukh in Siman Shin Het in chapter 308 at the end of the Saif, and that in itself should serve as a clue to the nature of the prohibition. The shulhan-arukh lists ball, not ball game, but just the object itself of the ball as muktzeh, something that you're not allowed to touch on Shabbat, and that is muktzeh mehamat miuz because it's disgusting. It's not something that you want to touch on Shabbat. The reason is, again, sit in life. The balls that people used back in the day were made of pig intestines or animals' intestines, and they were not the nicest thing that you wanted to hold. So this is something that you dissociate yourself from on Shabbat, and that also has to be coupled with the fact that most people didn't play ball on a regular basis. So for them, it was something that was relegated to a small group of people, and the ball itself is not something that you want to hold in your hands. There's no comparison to the balls that we use today, that are expensive, that are fancy, that are being usually well kept. A source that people who are against playing ball on Shabbat like to quote is the Shalot Tshuvot of Rabbi Yom Tov Tzahalon, who lived in the mid-16th to the mid-17th century in Tzefat in Israel and traveled in most Sephardic communities. And he was asked a question. This is in Shalot Tshuvot, chapter 202. It doesn't say where it happened. It seems that it's Salonika, or if not Salonika, one of the cities of the Ottoman Empire, because he uses Ladino terms. And we have the question. There are two answers. This is about a city where people in the past never played ball, and even when non-Jews tried to start some kind of a league during the week, remember we're talking about mid-16th 16th century, the community was against it. But now, recently, some younger men started playing on Shabbat and on Yom Tov, and this is done like an official league. They do it not for pay, but rather they place bets on it, and a non-Jew writes down the entries of who won the game, how much money was placed, and they pay after Shabbat. But because of that, they play together. They end up going to pubs and buying drinks and desserts to on credit. They pay for the next day. So interesting. On one hand, you see that people were trying to do everything within the limit of halakha. The non-Jew is writing for them. They don't pay directly. They do on credit, but the rabbis were not happy with that. So the elders were against it. But the bahurim, interesting term, like the one we saw in shulhan-arukh, harabanim bahurim hotrim harahalut. This is the younger rabbis were supportive. They enjoyed that kind of activity, and they found that the Rama on the shulhan-arukh says that it's mutar. So what should we do? That's a question. What do you do with those people who play on Shabbat? There are two teshuvot here. The one that both come from Haaretz Halon. He says minhag Yisrael Torah. The minhag is like halacha. In some places we do it, some places we don't do it. The essence of the teshuvah is this: playing ball on Shabbat is not forbidden per se, but when it is done in that context of a league, placing bets and partying later, this is inappropriate. And he says, to explain the minhag, התרה דנהגו כבעלי התוספות לא בשכר אלא לעונג שבת, מעט צחוק ורוב שבת בתורה ומעשים טובים ובדברים המותרים, והולכים לשמוע דרשות ואינם מניחים תפילת השבת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. He says, if you have a balanced combination, מעט צחוק, you allocate sometime for playing, but the rest you go to classes, you go to prayers. There's not a problem at all. You follow your minhag, and obviously today we live in a global village. Our minhagim are copied from one community to another. There wouldn't be a problem with that. At the beginning of his second teshuvah, he says, "Mishakim bekadur b'Shabbat yishtahaku atzmotam beginom." Is very, very strong language. Let them burn in Gehinnom. But again, if you look at the essence of this teshuvah, he speaks about this whole institution that was created in that city of gambling, placing bets, partying, etc. The source that is being quoted from the Yerushalmi is about one city in Eretz Yisrael that was destroyed because they played ball on Shabbat. But Haaretz Halon sets the record straight by saying that the actual word b'Shabbat is not mentioned there, and the rabbi said that the city was destroyed because they were playing ball, and he says the way they played was by placing bets. It was some kind of gambling. And besides it, it's very probable that the ball that they refer to in the Gemara is a different kind of ball, a metal ball that sometimes was fatal, that is mentioned in Masechet Bava Kama. So, to sum everything up, in this saif, jogging, running, exercising, even exercising with machines, shouldn't be a problem with Shabbat, because today this is our lifestyle. Not me personally. I don't exercise too much, but I used to. But people who like it and enjoy it and they dedicate time every day or on Shabbat. That's the time they have. They need their 45 minutes or hour of exercise, as long as it's done without activating any machinery that is not allowed to be used on Shabbat. It's okay. Same with jogging, running, playing ball for fun, going to visit sites, museums, zoos, in any manner that you have that it was prepaid from before Shabbat, or you have membership, or, for example, if you're staying in a resort and there's a shuttle that takes you to see places, all these things can be done. Always have in mind that if someone asks you the question, how do you do that? Say, look at shulhan-arukh, chapter 301, halakha 2. Have a great day.